Grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Friday, October 6th. We'll be taking a look at Week 5 NFL slate on DraftKings, some GPP strategy, game stacks, team stacks, everything you want to know about beating large field, small field, medium field, any size field, right? We got Squirrel Patrol here, John Breslin. You beat all types of fields on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, that's the goal. Gotten the label live final specialist and like single entry specialist, but just won a million maker a few weeks ago. So take all fields.
All field size. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me those thumbs. You know I like them in the morning. This is free content. Free content. A lot of times, last 2 years, me and Tuttle did the NFL, the game theory show, and that was for premium members. And that's what kind of this Friday show is more like, looking at, ways to get different, but, under-owned spots, over-owned spots, team stacks, game stacks. We got all the premium content coming out today. John's solo ship show with JM to Win. We got tournament takes. We got Noto's core personnel. You can see all the content here. Some of it is free. Some of it is paid. Obviously, we got the Optimal Stacks tool that I know that Squirrel Patrol looks at a lot. That gets updated throughout the day. We got Lineup HQ, which has all of our projections for players, their ownership, injury situations, everything like that you could use a lineup builder to build one lineup, to build 5 lineups, to build 300 lineups if you want. So sign up for RotoGrinders Premium today by clicking on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month, which also includes, if you got the combo premium package, we got college football stuff also. I've been using our college football projections for player, since now that Kentucky has opened up sports betting. I've used our college football statistical projections for college football props, and last week did actually pretty damn well. The markets on those props are, they are all over the place. Like it's if you're not line shopping in college football, it's like free money value wise, because you'll take a look at our, like John, you'll take a look at our statistical projections, like for a receiver, and it'll be like 42, right? A mean of 42. And then you'll see like one place, like their line will be like 46.5, and another place will be 58.5, right? And then another place will be 55.5, and another place will be 42.5. And it's like, oh, well, I'm going to take under 58.5 over here. Is this how easy it is? It's just like there's going to be one outlier, and you're just like, it's going to be so far in some other direction that you just take it. And then next thing you know, when you wake up in the morning on Saturday, that 58.5 on that book is now down to like 44.5. And it's just like, you get like 14 yards of value just for some inexplicable reason.
Right. Yeah. I guess just less liquid than NFL and some of the pro sports markets. Congratulations on your sports betting. That's big news coming to Kentucky.
Yeah, I've been doing well on the bonus bets. I mean, it's always nice because on the long shots. So like what I did yesterday, I'm glad because some of my other props didn't hit. That I just look and go, okay, the EV, I'm supposed to be betting on longer shots, but I don't want to like bet plus 1,000s. But they give me these boosts for the same game parlays, so I'm like, let me pair these things together. It's like I already have Curtis Samuel over 2.5 receptions. I'll just pair that with anytime touchdown. Or I have Cole Kmet for over 3.5 receptions already as a regular, just straight prop. So I'll just add it as a anytime touchdown and then just apply bonus money to it. And it's like, okay, this is a little, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, I don't lose anything. But
right,
that's the kind of the optimal way that you should be using those bonus funds.
Yeah, this is the glorious time for you for sports betting, when all the books open and they're offering like hundreds or thousands of dollars in bonus money, free bets, whatever. And then like you're just getting these like profit boosts, bonuses, and nobody's cut off yet. So like, nobody's limited yet. You can still kind of bet.
I'm not being greedy, John. The thing is that someone asked, a couple of people have asked. It's like I'm not being greedy.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going in and going, what's the max, $500 or whatever. It's like I'm you know me, I'm a nit, right? It's like, how can I sustain my accounts if I'm going to optimize for, can I make $25,000 to $50,000 on mostly player props and have the books kind of allow me to do so? So in that regard of like what that type of bankroll is, scaling it up past there, yeah, that's tough without getting your knees capped
Right.
at these books. But I'm just like I'm going about it how if I was a really really avid recreational bettor, and it's like I'm a fantasy player. I like player props, so it's like $30 here, $20 there, $50 here, and then I'd look and see if there's like, is there a zero hold, a very low hold market in college football? Okay, fine. I'll take a spread there for $20, right? Because it's like break even. So throw that in for some fun and just do all of this type of stuff. And it's like I don't know, like how would you be able to determine that I'm some super sharp in comparison to just some dude that likes making like 70 different $20 to $50 bets on a weekend?
Yeah, they have all kinds of algorithms, so it's like not my specialty. But I think they even look at stuff like, are you betting round numbers? Or are you betting like on a -110? Are you actually betting 110 to win 100, or are you betting 100? Because I guess the recreational bettor is way more inclined to just bet $100 and win 90, like win $90.90 or whatever. Whereas the sharp sports bettor is way more likely to bet like 110 to win 100 because they understand what that means. And so it's like I've heard that goes into the algorithm, but it's not my specialty. I focus on DFS, and I've really the way I keep my sportsbook accounts open is just hedging, making kind of bad bets, hedging like DFS outcomes late in the night if I'm winning a tournament.
Well, let's talk about DFS. Feel free to post your questions in the YouTube chat. We'll get to some of them. You can always send in questions to the mailbag. Questions at theoryofdfs.com. They don't go directly to me, and I splatter them out. I spread them out over shows for guests that are best equipped to answer them. I'll always reply back to you when they do get answered on the show, so you know when to check it out. So you don't have to be on the edge of your seat watching every show. But we have this week 5 slate, smaller slate. We're hitting the bye weeks now. 10 games, which is not a small slate, but I mean, compared to 12 or 13, we have a lot more. We have a lot less options here. We have some games that have high totals. We have some games that have really low totals. In the past couple of weeks, I mean, we've been leaning very heavily kind of on the cheaper quarterbacks, kind of find like value stacks, attacking the high total games to some degree. Looking at the projections so far this week, I mean, it seems outside of I think maybe one game that has a lowish total. For the most part, I've been running lineups. I mean, most of the lineups, even compared to ownership that we currently have on Friday, I've pretty much been focused on the high total games.
Yeah, it's so I like that it's down to 10 games, right? Like it feels like summer break because baseball ended. Now the bye weeks have started. NBA hasn't started yet. So yeah, we're down to 10 games. It is a week where I think the higher priced quarterbacks are getting a lot of attention in particular, like more than even other positions. But I was actually surprised as I was going through the week. I was able to find something in all 10 games that I think I would even use in like smaller field, like smaller pool. Like smaller pool of players. And there was something in just about every single game that I thought was appealing. But quarterback is a little bit tougher. I'm kind of gravitating towards the higher priced quarterbacks. And some of that is really because there's value at the other positions. I think you can find like value in some of the lower total games at like running back, at wide receiver. But of course, yeah, like the higher total games are going to draw more of my attention. So it might be a week where in like my multi-entry field that a lot of those lineups end up being like full game stacks of the higher total games with like mini game stacks from the lower total games.
Well, let's go through some games that we're looking to target. You're looking to target, and remember on this show, since we're thinking about game theory, it's more not like what the projection is. It's projection versus ownership. So, if you're targeting a game that maybe lower owned, you're doing it because it's under owned, or if it's high owned, you don't think it's owned enough. So what's one game from a stack perspective or a game stack perspective, team stack, game stack, are you looking to target on Sunday?
From lower total games or
Or no, from any total games. You want to talk about KC, Minnesota?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah,
there you go. Right, let's go with the highest total game.
Yeah, I think that's an appealing one to start with.
Okay, my question here for this game is that I think, I mean, the often problem with stacking Mahomes, they have a 28 total. Minnesota's 24.5. They're playing in the dome, which obviously, that's good. You try to stack Mahomes, and then he throws to 700 people.
Yeah.
And then no one else gets there. Travis Kelce 7,600. Like, tight end this year has been awful. So, like, Travis Kelce at 7,600 needs to, like, outperform these 7K, 8K wide receivers. But, I mean, if you get an extra 20 points at tight end that no one else has, that's always of value to you. I think Rashee Rice may get a little bit of steam at 3,600. So, Mahomes, Rice, Kelce. I mean, are you? I mean, you're going to spend up if you're going to run it back with Justin Jefferson. I mean, I don't know. Are you going to go to your bank and try to take out a loan for more salary into your lineup? I mean, how do you stack this game with how expensive some of the pieces are? And are you concerned that even if the game does go 52 plus points, that maybe no one has a score that you need to? I mean, Justin Jefferson putting up 24 points is nice. But at 9,400, it's not something that you need to have. If Kelce puts up 18 points, that's nice. I mean, it's not a score you need to have. Rashee Rice has 14 points. That's nice at 3,600. But do you think that the team spread the ball out enough that the game could go over and you're sitting there tilting who's getting these touchdowns and wishing that you played the showdown slate and not on the main slate?
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy. They don't make it easy for us. This is by far, I think, the most expensive game in terms of salary cap dollars. And I think Rice is going to get steamed. Like, I think you actually hit the nail on the head. I think he's going to probably come in over at 10%. I'd be very surprised if he's under that 10% number, just because I think everybody's going to look, especially on DraftKings, right, where he's 3,600. Like, the wide receiver prices go down a little bit more than they do on FanDuel. And it's like, oh, I can get this game, this high total game, and I'm not spending a lot of money. And it just, like, the Mahomes, like, Rashee Rice and Justin Jefferson stack, like, builds itself. So, and Kelce might not even come in that highly owned as 13%. I could see that going either way. I actually don't mind going to some of the lower non-Rashee Rice value pieces in this game. I think, like, Pacheco is interesting at 5,700. And, like, I think you can maybe game stack another game, play Pacheco, because he's been getting a lot more work than Kansas City running back generally has in years past. It seems like McKinnon's kind of fallen out of favor there. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was really never in favor. So I like, maybe using just Isaiah Pacheco from this game, or, if you want to game stack it, go to some of the value pieces like TJ Hawkinson instead of Travis Kelce. That's a big savings. And I think, like, Hawkinson, this is a good matchup for him. I think you can go to Jordan Addison. Like, I always talk about rookies, that people love rookies and they want to play them in week one. And that's usually not when you want to play them, because usually the team is looking and saying, well, this is a first round draft pick. We don't want to throw them into the fire unless we have to because of injury or some other situation. So they bring them along slowly. Like, and you've seen, like, KJ Osborne maintain a lot of the work. But, like, now they might be thinking, and now it's the time to start slowly working in Addison. And he's 5,300 and less than 5%. So if he's getting, like, 2 touchdowns instead of Justin Jefferson, that's a big, like, pivotal point on the slate. But probably my favorite player from this game, though, is Justin Jefferson. So he's probably my favorite to spend up on the slate. But it's very difficult. Like, you're not really doing, like, a Mahomes, Kelce, Jefferson stack and then being able to fit in a lot else.
Let's go to another high total team. It may not be a high total game, but Miami has a 29.5 implied total. I think it is the highest on the slate, right? They're at home, playing against the Giants, who have one of the lowest totals on the slate. The dynamics of this game are that Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be a very popular punt play. at 3,000. Okay. Also, I think Devon Achan or Achan or however you want to pronounce that.
It's changed a couple of times during the
Right.
weeks.
It's kind of like thunder and lightning now. Like Mostert has gotten more of like the kind of the pass catching work, and Achan has kind of been the bruiser type, and he's been running like so efficiently, like ridiculously efficiently. But they have such a high total here. I know you'd say that I would agree with you that Jefferson probably projects a little better than Tyreek Hill. I don't want to play Wan'Dale Robinson necessarily as a one-off. If people are going to play Achan and Robinson, why don't I just play a Tua stack, Tua, Tyreek, and then have Wan'Dale as the run back? And isn't that leverage off of what could be a 15, 20, 22% Devon Achan or Achan, whatever way you want to pronounce that?
Yeah. So yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson, I actually wrote him up on Monday night, and what happened is, he's a guy I expected to get more snaps because he was a highly drafted rookie last year. Started doing really well, got injured, then was injured at the beginning of this year. I think he's like the ideal cash game play on DraftKings, but he's probably going to be overrun. Like he's a guy that gets a bunch, like a slot receiver, right? That gets like a bunch of receptions, but he's not necessarily going to get in the end zone. And like if he gets like 7 receptions for 60 yards, like that's pretty good for 3,000, but it's not necessarily like winning you a tournament. You want the guy that's getting 2 touchdowns. I actually do like Devin Achan a lot this week. I actually think people are underrating him. This backfield reminds me of like the New Orleans Saints backfield from like 5 years ago, where I think you had like Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, and Kamara just kind of came on, and everybody said, well, he's like being really efficient, but he's not getting the workload. You can't really play him in a lineup because it looks like it's split backfield. He might be the backup running back. And the problem was just Alvin Kamara, every time he touched the ball, wherever he was on the field, he scored. So he would end the drive, and it looked like he wasn't getting a lot of volume, right? Like Ingram would get 2 or 3 carries on the drive, then Alvin Kamara would run it 70 yards for a touchdown. People are like, well, he only got 1 carry on the drive. Like he's probably not getting the work that you need. And like Devin Achan reminds me of that, where like he's scoring from anywhere on the field.
But hold on, can I? It's not the same as Ingram and Kamara because the roles are reversed.
Yeah,
like Kamara's value on that team was that we know in DFS for PPR, full point PPR scoring, that receptions targets are worth way more than rushes, and of course, red zone rushes are worth way more than any other type of rush. Like Achan is not like he's catching balls out of the backfield and getting this work. He's just it's just running the ball in from the 38-yard line. He's running the ball in from there. So are the comparisons really that true? Because like if Achan doesn't get in the end zone, like how the hell does he get there?
Well, so Achan's catching some passes. He's got 8 receptions through 3 games. I think it's about the same number of like receptions per game as Mostert. I think they're both catching passes out of the backfield, and so I don't necessarily mean that like that the roles are exactly similar to like
right.
New Orleans Saints backfield. I think more just in terms of I think it's the first time since then where I would be comfortable playing 2 running backs from the same team together.
Oh, no, that's going to happen again when they both score over 50 fantasy points?
Could be. I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. Like, I'm not going to force them in, but I'm going to, I usually set a rule that I only want 1 running back from each team. And I'm going to say, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to set that rule for Miami this week. Because I think it's absolutely possible that they could both do that again. But I'm going to be focusing on Achan. He's got like 11 yards per carry. Like that's insane. He's like 6th in the NFL in rushing, and he's only played 3 games, and he's only got like 27 carries. Like his next 27 carries, he'd get no yards, and he'd still be averaging over 5.5 yards per carry.
That's called regression to the mean, John. That's why I don't want to play. When people think of regression to the mean, they think it has to happen like immediately.
Yeah.
But I mean, it has to happen at some point. This guy ain't going to average 11 yards a rush the whole season.
Right. It'll happen at some point, but yeah, he's not going to start averaging 0. He's going to start averaging maybe 5 something, and that's still very appealing. And I am he's not priced up that high. if he was priced at like 8,500 or something, and and if he was priced even where like Bijan Robinson is priced, and he was seeing like, oh, he's gonna be by far the highest owned running back on the slate, then maybe that would be a stay away point. We don't have him projected as like having like incredible ownership, and he's not priced as the most expensive running back on the slate. I think maybe he should be priced as the most expensive running back on the slate.
Okay, that's a hot take, as people say in the chat. That's a Devin says. Let's go to the second highest total game on the slate, I believe, and that's Philadelphia, the Eagles at the Rams. Obviously, Kyren Williams and DeAndre Swift, the running backs in these games, are going to be targeted, right? Kyron's only at 6,700, and he's playing virtually all of the snaps. I mean, Ronnie Rivers, I guess, comes in every once in a while. DeAndre Swift has seemingly just completely supplanted Kenneth Gainwell as the lead running back, which is rare for the Eagles, that we have a running back that's like, oh, they actually decided on something. The issue in this game is Cooper Kupp. Like, it really comes down to, on the Rams side, that when they say, I looked on Twitter, they say he's ready to go this week. Like, $8,600 Cooper Kupp coming off an injury doesn't sound like I'm not sure if he's going to be Cooper Kupp. Is he going to come back and play 100% of snaps and be efficient at 8,600? But then you also got all the other receivers that, even if Cooper Kupp is playing half the snaps, like all these other Rams receivers are just way too expensive at that point, because Kupp's going to suck up enough target share that it isn't worth playing. Do you think that with the Philadelphia with the 27-point implied total, that why can't we just go back to Hurts plus one of A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith and play Dallas Goedert at 4,200, and maybe you run it back with Kyren Williams, and let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm not. So I think I'll be playing a lot of Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure I'll be running it back with a lot of Rams players. Like, I think you can actually play Hurts, kind of, and I think you can pair him with somebody. I think you can pair him with AJ Brown or Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith, I think, is a little bit banged up, but like, I think that's fine. I mean, everybody's going to end up banged up. The pricing on the Rams players is a little bit different this week though than you would see on most weeks, because like we kind of could see what's going to happen. The Rams receivers had to get priced up. They were doing so well, and they were priced so cheaply. And now Cooper Kupp is back, and he's potentially going to be eating into all of their workloads. But you got to price Kupp up as well. And so the Rams are really just too expensive. Like the Rams are the more, in terms of like point per dollar, they're probably the more expensive team here. And so I actually think you can play this game just playing like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. And you don't necessarily need a really expensive Rams run back. I don't mind like Tutu Atwell though. If you are gonna play a Rams wide receiver, you gotta there he is.
You gotta scroll.
Yeah, because I don't think he's gonna get like phased out of the offense entirely. I feel like Puka and Cooper Kupp could eat into each other a little bit, whereas Tutu maintain his same role. And at only like 4%, I think if I'm gonna run like a Jalen Hurts stack back with a Rams player, like Tutu Atwell might be the guy that I look at rather than going to the more expensive wide receivers, or like Higbee at the tight end position as well, just because like that's such a wasteland. Although I don't mind playing if you're gonna play Hurts, then maybe pair him with Goddard.
Okay, so outside of those games that we just discussed, those are the higher total games. There's quite a gap until we start getting into low to really low total games. One that is going to be popular, and the chat does want to talk about it, and I did also. It has a 44.5 total. It's Cincinnati at Arizona. It looks like T. Higgins is not going to play. Irv Smith is questionable. I don't know how much that matters. I think maybe that matters if you want to play some Tanner Hudson at tight end. I think people are going to go back to Joe Burrow, and so the Bengals can't be this bad for this long, right? Once you take Higgins out of the target share, that it's like, okay, it's quite easy and affordable to play Burrow plus Chase plus Boyd plus Hudson plus Irv Smith. Whatever, pick two, Probably you're doing Burrow, Chase plus one of the other cheaper ones. You got Joe Mixon there, 6,400, right? Cincinnati is favored on the road, right? It's they are the favorite team. Is it weird for me to say, John, that I'm actually more interested in playing this game as a Josh Dobbs stack?
Oh, that's yeah. That's what I was gonna say. As I think I like the idea of you play like Joshua Dobbs, you play Joshua Dobbs, Michael Wilson, and then do whatever you want. And yeah, you can run that back with Joe Mixon. Obviously, I think the concern here is Joe Burrow is still hurt and he's like completely immobile now, and like it's really affecting the team. I think it was Jamar Chase that said, and this was a couple weeks ago, that he would have preferred if Burrow sat until after the bye week. Because like he is like legitimately injured and it's affecting his mobility and like he can't evade sacks. He used to like get like a little bit of rushing yards, but like there's nothing there at all.
Right, but it's not even the rushing yards. It's like if you can't move around in the pocket, you also can't like feint throws. You can't use you can't roll out in order to get more time for your receivers. I mean, you're kind of stuck in kind of a base offense, and I'm assuming that's why the wide receivers are kind of being like we're doing as much as we can to get separation, but you make it so we're telegraphing these plays too much.
Yeah, and there is a possibility like Burrow's just gonna get better. I mean, it's like an injury that he's playing through because the presumption is it's going to heal and get a little bit better each week. So I actually do like the idea of like stacking this whole game because I think it is a game that could exceed its total by a lot if Burrow's like feeling better. But if he's not, like the Cincinnati offense could look exactly the same just without T. Higgins and potentially without Irv Smith. And so I don't know if that's something I really want to buy into at really high ownership because I think if T. Higgins does miss this game, then I think people are like Jamar Chase might see his ownership skyrocket. And like if Burrow can't move around in the pocket, like we're probably still in the same exact situation we've been in the first 4 weeks. And so that's not necessarily something I want to buy into it at high ownership. But I don't mind the idea of like overstacking this game with the idea that maybe Burrow is feeling a little bit better, and that these pieces could all come together. There's obviously like talent here. Like these pieces on both sides of the game could come together to make this game go over its total. And so there are a lot of attractive pieces like Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. And then, like on the Arizona side, surprisingly, like Zach Ertz, Michael Wilson, and Joshua Dobbs is looking pretty good.
How about and Hollywood Brown?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the highest owned. I think from the Arizona guy, I think he's particularly well priced on DraftKings.
5K. It's not like that expensive.
I think he's well priced. I'll probably end up under the field on Hollywood Brown and over the field on Michael Wilson.
Okay, I want to talk about two more games. One game I think is going to be overowned, and one game I think is going to be underowned. And I want your thoughts, and maybe you disagree with that. A game that I think will be overowned for its ceiling, I think is going to be Houston, Atlanta.
Okay.
I think, and admit this is what I think. Maybe you think differently. It's only a 41.5 total. I mean, Atlanta runs the ball a lot, right? They're playing they're a favorite at home. It's not like the Texans are great. I mean, they're letting CJ Stroud throw the ball, but I'm concerned about play volume here. Bijan Robinson at 7,700 is going to be pretty well owned. And if people do play this game, I mean, I've been running lineups and you get like CJ Stroud stacks with Bijan run backs. Like obviously Bijan in and of himself has a ceiling. Like Tank Dell will get some ownership and Nico Collins will get some ownership. I just feel that at I mean, it's not like it's going to be high owned, but at this ownership level, like compared to the other games on the slate, I'm not sure. I mean, if the Falcons are ahead, I'm not sure how this game gets the play volume. You'd want the Texans to come out to a 2-touchdown lead. And then that's how it happens. But I'm not even sure if the Texans could do that because the Falcons defense isn't like awful or anything. So what is your interest in this game as a stack? Or are you more likely to just play pieces?
No, I think I'm going to play this game as a stack. And it's like, this is the game that I have like my most solid feelings on. Like, this is a game that I'm going to stack in like 20 max and 150 entry
Oh, so
contests.
you're the opposite of me. You think this game is under-owned. This game should be higher than it should be.
No, I don't think so. I think like I'm going to own it at about 5%. So if I'm doing like a 20 max,
5%.
I'm going to have one game stack.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
so your point is has nothing to do with like you want to have a lot of this game. It's more the fact of if you play this game, you'd rather play it as a stack or avoid.
Exactly. And that stack is the exact base stack you would think of. It's CJ Stroud, Bijan Robinson, and one or two Houston receivers. And that's it. Like that's the only thing I have interest in. I guess you could maybe run it back with like Drake London, but that's like pretty risky. I don't know. Like I'm kind of done with the Atlanta offense. Like I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah, I think it is against Detroit. It's like I think this Atlanta offense could surprise people. It's surprising no one. There's just running Bijan Robinson. Like that is the only piece you want from the Atlanta side. And even that's a little bit risky, but I like the idea of playing Bijan because I think if he's finding the end zone, it's probably on long runs, which I think he can do. And that's turning the ball back over to the Houston side. And CJ Stroud has looked surprisingly good. So yeah, I think you can play this as like CJ Stroud, the Houston receivers and Bijan Robinson. Play that in about 5% of your lineups, and that's about it. And I'm probably not touching it outside of that.
Okay, here's a game I think is going to be under-owned in a certain way. Sneakily, this team has like I think the third highest total on the slate. They're at home and they're playing in what is ironically called the Coors Field of NFL DFS, and that's the Dome in Detroit. I think Montgomery at 6,600 is going to get some ownership, a decent amount. I think Adam Thielen is going to get a fair amount of ownership at 5,100. I'm looking, especially, I just saw on Twitter that Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to be at practice today. And that's typically not a good sign. If someone misses Friday's practice completely, not limited, just completely misses it, it's much more likely that he's going to miss. I like Goff stacks. And truthfully, I don't mind pairing Goff with like a Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. You could always throw in a Josh Reynolds. This is obviously if Amon-Ra doesn't play, but even if Amon-Ra does play, I mean, I just think a lot of people are going to have David Montgomery on one side and Adam Thielen on the other side. And I feel like I want to have Goff +2 and then Miles Sanders as kind of the run back there, because as long as, if Detroit's playing fast and they're throwing the ball a little more often than you expect, right? Because they have been, and Carolina can keep up. I mean, I'd rather play it this way. I mean, you could run it back with Thielen. Yeah, sure, you could play. I don't think you play Goff stacks with Montgomery in it. But what's your opinions on this game, and how are you going to attack it? Are you going to attack it more or less?
Yeah, so Amon-Ra St. Brown potentially missing this game. Like I knew he was questionable, but it's now looking a little bit more likely like he might miss the game. I think Sam Laporta, the two players you mentioned that I'm pretty interested in are Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think David Montgomery, like we're seeing him as one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. Like he's somebody that I always liked being over the field on when he was low owned because like he could always get like 2 touchdowns. But now it's kind of flipped. Like I don't know if I necessarily want to buy into him at super high ownership because Jahmyr Gibbs is there. Like why would you? Like we've got Montgomery at 10 times the ownership of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like that doesn't really make sense. And Gibbs is cheaper. And Gibbs is another one of these rookies that people are super excited about week 1. And it's like, well, hold on, like maybe you want to start playing him like week 5 when they're giving him a little bit more of the playbook and a little bit more looks. Carolina side, it's kind of tough. Like there's not a whole lot I'm interested in. Probably Adam Thielen is the guy.
You can play Mingo if he plays. Play Mingo at 3,300 when a lot of people are playing Wandale or Rashee Rice or Michael Wilson. Like Jonathan Mingo may be like 1% owned in that slot, and is he going to be 10 times less likely to outscore those other cheap wide receivers?
Right. Yeah, I think Mingo is definitely in play. It's just there's a 10-point spread. We'll see if things adjust. Like if Amon-Ra is declared out, or if he's like, listed as doubtful or something like that. We'll see if the spread gets affected. I mean, Detroit's favored by 10 here, and the Carolina offense hasn't really looked that good. And so and the Detroit defenses look pretty good. So I don't know if I want to necessarily be going crazy, with Carolina players here. Probably I would pick one, from like Adam Thielen or Jonathan Mingo, and like maybe Hayden Hurst. But I'd rather just play Sam Laporta if I'm playing a tight end from this game. But I'm definitely interested in being over the field on Jahmyr Gibbs there if Mon-Ra St. Brown is out.
Any other games that we talked about a lot of them. Any other games that we have not mentioned that you specifically are looking to target or looking to avoid?
So just actually one last piece of that Detroit game. I think Jameson Williams is supposed to be back, and they had talked about limiting him. Say his suspension got reduced, and they talked about limiting him, like easing him in slowly. I do wonder if that Amon-Ra St. Brown news changes that dynamic a little bit. I know they're different kinds of receivers, but if Jameson Williams is getting more snaps just as a result of Amon-Ra St. Brown missing the game or more looks, that's a factor at like less than 1% ownership you might want to consider from this game. In terms of other games, like one other game, you're hovering over it right now. The Tennessee Indianapolis game, in the Dome, Anthony Richardson facing a pretty it's a pass funnel or whatever defense. Yeah, and Richardson's a guy that I think could be a future star, at least for a DFS. Like CJ Stroud might be the better quarterback, but Anthony Richardson might put up more fantasy points. And he doesn't. I said this about Justin Fields last week. Like Anthony Richardson can put up a bunch of points on the DFS scoreboard without them necessarily going on the real NFL scoreboard. So if they're putting points on the NFL scoreboard as well, that's something I'm very interested in. Like Anthony Richardson is probably the quarterback I'm most interested in after the really expensive guys, like after Mahomes and Hurts. I think Anthony Richardson is a guy that could outscore them. Just if he gets 2 more rushing touchdowns and he's throwing one, then he's justifying that price, and he might be outscoring like Mahomes and Jalen Hurts.
I mean, I'm most likely, if he were to play this game, I would think Richardson and to pair him with Josh Downs at 3,700 because he's in that punt. Yeah. People are going to play Wandale. People are going to play Michael Wilson, Rashee Rice, and and it's like, okay, you can play him there. And then just DeAndre Hopkins on the other side, and you're good to go. I think DeAndre Hopkins, especially if I think we have Alec Burks. Yeah, we have Treylon Burks out of our projections. So Hopkins isn't like a big play guy, but he's someone that could, at 5,700, he could get in the end zone twice. And if he goes, 7 for 80 with 2 touchdowns, 5,700 is a good price for that.
Yeah, like Hopkins is priced way down now. Like he was 6,900 on DraftKings to start the year. It's down to 5,700. Obviously, like this is not a high volume passing offense, so that's going to hurt him. But they're probably not going to be in a better position than in the Dome against the Colts. So if we're going to see it from DeAndre Hopkins, like this might be the week. And I like it as the other side of like the Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs stack. That's Anthony Richardson's maybe a little bit more expensive than I would like. But yeah, then you're playing him with like Josh Downs, a pretty cheap receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins, who's priced way down. That's giving you a little bit of game stack, and then maybe that's letting you put in like a Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce like mini stack, right, or something like that. So that's why you're getting like kind of 2 game stacks, and they can conceivably both go off. And I think this Tennessee Colts game could be the one that goes over its total. So it is a game like I'm probably interested in game stacking more or staying away. But I think it is one of those games I'm interested in using as a way to fit in the more expensive pieces from the more expensive games.
Well, since we're talking about stacks, we have our NFL DFS optimal stacks tool for DraftKings as well as FanDuel. John, you want to have a quick, 60-second explanation of what this is? I mean, it's only for premium members, so I'm just gonna show you the top of it because it'll obviously update tomorrow. Also, I mean, it updates multiple times, so I don't think we're gonna get projection changes. So I could probably show it, but what exactly? I mean, you look at these tools. I mean, I do also for all the sports. So what's the the 60-second elevator pitch on why this is useful?
Sure. So it's really just running, I believe it's a bunch of simulations, and we just take a look at like who's showing up in the optimal lineups. We compare that to projected ownership, and that's giving you your leverage spots, right? Like who do you want to be over the field on? Who do you want to be under the field on? So I write an article on this each week, focusing on the quarterbacks and which wide receivers I would pair them with. And this tool shows exactly like what stacks and what quarterbacks it expresses it in terms of quarterbacks, like what quarterbacks will be overowned and underowned, according to our simulation or interpretation of the slate. And sometimes I don't agree with the tool. Sometimes I say, like, I think this is, this guy is showing up as negative leverage, but I want to be over the field on him anyway.
Well, sometimes it really depends on what you think ownership is going to be,
Yeah,
because a lot of times it's like I look and I go, I don't think people are going to play this guy as much as we project him to. So if I decrease the ownership, he actually becomes positive leverage, and then the vice versa. So
yeah.
even when you look at that type of stuff, always in your mind go, well, do I agree with the ownership and the projection? Do I think there's a higher ceiling involved in certain spots? And you could still inform your own opinions, but John, you would agree that this would be at least like a good starting point of like, let me take a look what our sims say and then adjust from there.
Yeah, and it's really it's an educational tool as well. Like it really is. Like this week when I looked on Wednesday, in it because I have to write an article on it. It showed the same quarterback as being the highest leverage on FanDuel, I think, and the lowest leverage on DraftKings, and kind of thinking through why that might be, was pretty interesting. That'll probably be if it's the same way now. I'll probably have that definitely as a piece of my article. So yeah, I mean it's a great tool. I mean it's a great way. People start their lineups with a quarterback because that's generally going to dictate what game stack you're using. So I think it's a very valuable tool. It's one of the most interesting articles I think that I'm writing each week is taking a look at the output of this tool and trying to figure out what it means and why it is the way that it is. And like we've said, like these numbers kind of show up as just orange to blue, but like they can make a big difference. Like you see like Jared Goff there is at 6.2 versus 4.92, and you say, well, it's like a 1% difference. That's kind of meaningless. But like 1.2 out of 5, is a 20 something percent increase or decrease, and that might actually be a better way to express it there in the difference column, which is probably something I should talk to Jimino about.
Right.
But because these differences can be more meaningful than they seem. If you're
Right. Like
buying
the thing about Joe Burrow is like this 0.6 difference means a lot more when it's out of almost 4. So that's like a 9% difference. But remember what I said before, I think he's going to be higher on than 3%. Like if you put him at like, oh, well, his ownership is going to be 6%, then it becomes like the most negative leverage quarterback on the entire slate. So it's not just like, oh, this is based on our current ownership numbers. Well, if you disagree with the numbers, then change the like it's what I even say about projections. It's like, well, I think this guy has a higher ceiling. So I said, so change his number. And I go, like, you're going against the model that is taking all these things into account, probably better than you. But if you disagree with it before you build your lineups, then dude, raise his projection by 2, right? Lower. You're more than welcome to put your own opinions into lineup HQ and replace certain projections if you want. That's not sacrosanct. I change ownership projections all the time. I may not change the player projections all the time, but the ownership ones, dude, I could wipe them out and go, I'm gonna do them myself.
Yeah, I mean, I change ownership projections all the time. I used to like, oh, I can't. This is like what the computer said. I can't change this. Just go ahead and change it. Like when I'm not getting the percentage of players that I want. I got toy around with all kinds of like groups and stuff. I just got to change the ownership. Like I got to change the player projection. That's going to give me less of this guy. Yeah, but yes, you can go in, you can change what you want. And I think it's a great tool, that the optimal stacks tool. It was interesting in showing like Tua as being the highest owned quarterback there and not owned enough. And I don't even know that he's going to hit the ownership number that we had there. So,
well, that'll also be updated. So, like, we'll have an ownership update later today. Then we'll have one on Saturday. Then obviously Sunday morning. So once ownership and projections, if Amon Ra is out, that changes what golf stacks look like if someone else is in, so that's why that's something that you should be checking in on, right? I build my lineup Sunday morning, so maybe I check in on it every day and seeing, what could possibly be, but really I don't make any final decisions at all until wake up, get my coffee Sunday morning and then go, okay, I got 3 hours to make these lineups. Let me iron out what it is I want to do.
Yeah. You start getting like the final injury news usually a little bit after midnight East Coast time on Saturday. It's like just generally I'm going to bed. As soon as I go to bed, all the injury confirmations come out. Oh, this guy didn't travel with the team. This guy is declared out. But I end up waking up Sunday exactly, and then making my final decisions. You don't have to set up a lineup on Wednesday, thankfully, and then play it on Sunday. You're allowed to make changes.
Before we get out of here, I want to address the props and pick 'em. I did put a card in on Underdog, or a slip. I don't know what the proper terminology is. Before the show, I looked at Cardi's blitz projections as well as our own RotoGrinders NFL projections. I bring them into Excel. I could bring in the numbers, the lines, and everything from all the sports books, as well as Underdog and Prize Picks, and compare. Convert means into medians, and then compare to the prices and numbers that are on both sides. We have a props and pick'em tool that if you're a premium member, you could take part in. We also have a props and pick'em package where people look at the tools and they tell you, right? Here's a good bet, right? So we have Britt, we have Grant, we have Justin, we have all of our, most of our, at least, RotoGrinders analysts contributing to that package. So if you don't want the DFS stuff only, right, you could just props and pick 'em package, even cheaper. But I got Isaiah Pacheco under 13.5 rushing attempts, right? I got Tony Pollard over 55.5 rushing yards. I got Zach Ertz over 29.5 receiving yards. And then I got a combination of Jared Goff over 20.5 completions with Jahmyr Gibbs over 15.5 receiving yards. And individually, like remember on Underdog, you kind of on a 5-pick with insurance, you have to satisfy like a 55% win rate. So like minus 120. And as of right now, these all show an edge on if you want to bet them individually on the sports books. If you bet these at minus 120, it would show as profitable according to our projections. So basically, if it would show as profitable at minus 120 on the sports books, putting these 5 together on Underdog, getting minus 120 would be profitable. So feel free if you want that you could compare. They're way more than this. I just put 5 together before the show just for the sake of it. But remember, get these early. If you got some of the numbers I got on Tuesdays and Wednesday, you can't get them anymore. Right? You can't get them at the same price anymore. I got some at plus money when now they're minus 115 when I got them at plus 140 or something. Like you got to get you really, when it comes to the sports betting stuff, especially for props or anything, like do not wait till Sunday morning to bet your props.
Right.
Bet them now.
DFS lineups, wait until Sunday to confirm everything. Like sports betting, it's the opposite. I don't know if you're going to get that Jahmyr Gibbs, 15.5 receiving yards if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out. That's probably going to go a bit higher. So yeah,
when to get, or it's just going to come off. Underdog may just take it off the board until they get the news, right? And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. So you could do both. That's why that's why I like the combination of DFS and sports betting, prop betting, pick'em stuff. Is that like, dude, early? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's like, okay, every once in a while, I check the board. Okay, good. Let me bet this. Oh, let me do that. Let me put this together. And it's like, oh, I'll check in on the DFS stuff. Oh, what's looking good? Oh, okay, run some lineups. But then Sunday comes and it's like I don't even look at the sports books. It's like I already got everything in, unless information has changed wildly. I mean, not going to find the best prices and the best numbers. So I'm just going to focus on my DFS lineups.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the way to be.
You're going to be on the Solo Ship show later today, right?
Yeah, Solo Ship later today, and trying to get my UFC article in. Try to get that out before Saturday. So I think weigh-ins are starting in about 10 minutes. So I think we're still. I don't want to say anything, right? It's like a no-hitter, but we've got a pretty good streak going.
We're still at X amount of fights, and then we're not.
Yeah, but it hasn't been that way lately. It's been a little while. So, but yeah, hopefully all the fights go, and it should be like a high scoring card. It's not necessarily the highest level UFC card, but it's should be pretty high scoring. And some of the interesting pricing dynamics. I think we've had at least one line completely flip since pricing came out. So,
but you'll talk about that on MMA Crunch Time tomorrow.
Yeah, and it'll be on the UFC pre-lock show with H3 Buddha, Mike Brown. Just go over, generally about half an hour, go through all the fight picks and who we liked, and the Ground and Pound podcast should be coming out today. I watch it on StreamYard before it gets published to the site. But yeah, it should be out I think sometime today. So definitely give that a listen because Mike and Liam give an excellent breakdown of each fight.
Right, and you'll always be able to check out these shows. Get reminded of them by hitting the notification bell when they come up on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door. Come on, hit those thummy thumbs. We love the thummy thumbs. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Send in your questions to the mailbag. Questions at theoryofdfs.com. We got tons of premium content coming out today. Subscribe to RotoGrinders. Get all of our projections. Get access to Lineup HQ and everything that we offer here. And I'll see you back on Monday reviewing, hopefully, a winning slate for NFL Week 5 and everything you're thinking about when it comes to daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.